This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We're continuing in Daf Hashavua Sugya Iyun. Today's subject is the Gemara in Samach Yamid Beis. The Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Ilah Mishum Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Mutter Loila Adam L'Shanois B'Dvar Hashalom. Person is allowed to deviate when it comes to peace. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Avichat Siva Kaisoimru LiYosef Ana Sana. That the brother sent word to Yosef that dad, before he died, he asked that you should forgive us. Yaakov never said such a thing. But for the sake of peace, you can make up a story. Rav Nassan Oimer Mitzvah. Rav Nassan says it's a mitzvah to lie for peace. Shmuel said to Hashem, how could I point David? Shaul will kill me. So God said, tell him you're going to bring karbanos. Tevei Rabbi Shmuel Tana Gadol HaShalom. In the house, in the academy of Rabbi Shmuel, they taught peace is great. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu deviated. Because the Meikara Ksiv Adoni Zakein. First, we find that Sarah laughed, that her husband was too old, and then when God confronted Abraham, he said, why did Sarah laugh and say she's too old? So even God deviated for the sake of peace. So the Gemara comes out, you're allowed to lie for Shalom. So I want to share with you the following question. The Gemara in Ksubah says on Tezayin Amid Beis to Yedzayin Amid Aleph, Ketzad Meraktim Lefnei HaKala. How do you dance before the Kala? Rashi says, what do you say before the Kala? Beis Hillel says, Kala Kamoishahi. You say it as it is. What an ugly Kala. I guess you try to find something good to say. She was beautiful when she was born. And before she learned to speak, she was wonderful. But you can't exaggerate. You have to say it as it is. That's the opinion of Beis Shammai. That's the opinion of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says you say Kala Nova Chasuda. A beautiful, righteous Kala, even if it's not true. Here's the problem. The Mefarshim on that halacha explain that the only reason you're allowed to do it is because it's not outright sheker, but we can interpret your words as if what is called milsa de masamra l'treyapi, something that can have two meanings. So, for example, the Prisha and the Beis Shmuel and Even Oezer and Samachei, they say you could explain that what he means is noa b'maaseha. Shitaka, she's ugly. She's objectively hideous. But she has good actions. That's what you mean, noa v'chasuda. Or the Taz or the Marsha says, it means she's taka ugly, but for some reason this Meshugana Chasan, he thinks she's beautiful. So noa v'chasuda means be'inei Chasan. So it's not an outright lie. The bottom line is, all the Mefarshim explain that the reason for the heter is because it's not an outright lie. So in the Sefer Biurim v'Iyunim of Rav Binyamin Luban, who's Rosh Shiva of Yeshiva Taras Chaim in Florida, he has the following question. So it's a stira to our Gemara. Because our Gemara in Yevamos says, Mutter loila adam l'shanois b'dvar hashalom. That's mashma, you're allowed to lie for peace straight out. So why do all the Achronim explain that the only reason you're allowed to say kala noa v'chasuda is because it could be interpreted to mean noa b'maaseha, noa b'inei chasan, but which implies you can't lie straight out. But our Gemara in Yevamos seems to imply that you could lie straight out. And the Sefer Biurim v'Iyunim gives the following answer. Saying Kala Noa v'Chasuda is not really Laman HaShalom. If they're getting married, presumably they're getting along. So you're not doing anything to avoid machloikas over here. You're just trying to be marbe, ava v'achva shalom v'reyos. That you're not allowed to do with an overt lie. Mashein Kain, in our Gemara, all the situations were to avoid machloikes, to avoid strife. So to avoid strife, you could lie straight out. That's how the Biurim v'Iyunim wants to answer the stira. Again, the stira is, our Gemara in Yevamos seems to say you could lie for peace, straight out. And the Achroinim in the Gemara in Ksubah says, Zayin Mabez, Zayin Aleph, seem to imply you can only say Kala Nava Chasuda because it could be interpreted to have another meaning. However, I'd like to suggest that according to the Aruch LaNer here in the Gemara Yevamos, there's no stira to begin with. Because the Aruch LaNer asks, number one, what heter is there to lie? The Torah says, midvar sheker tirchak. What do you mean, Laman HaShalom, you could lie? Laman HaShalom, could you not put on tefillin? Laman HaShalom, could you wear shatnez? Laman HaShalom, could you eat treif? No. So why are you allowed to lie, Laman HaShalom? Question number one. Question number two, why does the Gemara say Mutar L'shanois? It should say Mutar L'shaker. These are the two questions of the Aruch LaNer. And the Gemara and the Aruch LaNer answers that the Shvatim really didn't lie. Why? First of all, they didn't do it themselves. They sent a shliach. So maybe you could say, it's like Amir La'akum. They didn't lie. They sent somebody else to lie. Number two, says Aruch LaNer, if you look carefully in the words of the Shvatim, there are extra words. Because in Bereshis, Parak Nun, Pasuk Tazayin Tiyad Zayin, the Pasuk says, Avicha tziva lefnei Moisai, Leimar, Kai Soimru Li-Yosef. Once they said Leimar, why do they say Kai Soimru Li-Yosef? So this is what they meant. The intention of the Shvatim, says Aruch LaNer, was to say Lishna de Mishtama L'Trei Api, a language that could be understood in two ways. Their intention was Avicha tziva lefnei Moisai leimar. Dad commanded before his death, saying what? Whatever. We'll let you know a different time what he said. And then they said Kai Soimru Li-Yosef. So should be said to Yosef, but that wasn't coming from their father. So if you put the comma in the right place, they didn't lie overtly. So therefore, the Shvatim never lied straight out. So according to the Aruch LaNer, there's no stira between Yevamos and Ksubis. You're right, in Ksubis, you're only allowed to say Kala Nova Chasuda because it could be interpreted Noah b'Maaseha, Noah b'Beinei Chasan. Likewise, in Yevamos, you're not allowed to be Mishaker, you're allowed to be Mishaneh. You can't say an outright lie, you could say something that could have two meanings. So there's no stira in the first place. Now, how will the Aruch LaNer understand how Hashem told Shmuel, tell Shaul you're bringing karbanos? That seems to be an outright lie. L'chayra, the Aruch LaNer will say like the Marsha. The Marsha asks that, wait a second, what Shmuel said wasn't a lie because he did bring karbanos. And the Marsha says, yeah, but that was like a side thing. That wasn't the main thing. The main thing he was doing was appointing David HaMelech. So therefore, in fact, and by the way, the Tosfos Yeshanim here on the page says the same idea, that in fact, Shmuel, did bring karbanos. Shmuel did bring karbanos. So if that's the case, so both in the example by the Shvatim and by Shaul, the halacha, we do not see more than you're allowed to say something that could have two interpretations. What will the Aruch LaNer say regarding HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It seems like HaKadosh Baruch Hu said sheker, because Sarah laughed and she said, my husband is too old. And God said, why did Sarah say that she's too old? So again, there are two pshatim brought in the Das L'Kenim Mibalei HaTosfos Al HaTorah, that really Sarah did say she's too old. She said, Acharei Beloisi Hoyseli Edna. And she also said, Vadoni Zakein. So God said, why did Sarah laugh and say she's too old? She did say that. She happened also to say he's too old, and God left that part out. But the Aruch LaNer will not be going like the other pshat, that God lied, so to speak. In other words, the other way to learn would be, Sarah said, Acharei Beloisi Hoyseli Edna. After I'm worn out, taka, I'm smooth again. But, V'adoini zakein, but my master is, in other words, the other way to read it was, Sarah never said she's too old. She says, you're right, after I was worn out, I became smooth again. So I could have a child, but my master is too old. So basically, according to the Aruch LaNer, he would learn the Gemara in Yevamos that all these three scenarios are not outright lies, they're white lies, they're only saying a half a truth. Binyamin Gold, how are you? Shalom Aleichem. Welcome. Very happy to see you. I want to ask you something when the shiur is over. Okay? Okay. So, next Gemara. The Gemara Bava Metzia Chav Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara says, "V'shloisha milsa Avida Rabbanan Lashanis B'Diburayu. Rabbis are allowed to lie about the following three things. B'Masechta, B'Poria, B'Ushpiza. Somebody says, do you know this Masechta? You're allowed to say no, Midar Chanava. B'Poria, somebody asks, according to Tosfos, did you sleep in this bed? You're allowed to say no, because maybe they'll find Kerry in the bed. B'Ushpiza, somebody said, how did the host treat you? You're allowed to say, not great. Why? Because we're afraid that maybe if you say the host was really gracious and generous, he'll have a lot of people staying in his house. The bottom line is, we see in that Gemara, this is another instance where you're allowed to lie. You're allowed to lie for humility. You're allowed to lie for tznius. Somebody asked, did you have tashma shamita? You're allowed to lie and say no, midar chatznius. That's how Rashi learns. And you're allowed to lie to protect a potential host. Now, the Rav Binyamin Luban is medayik that if the Gemara says that you're allowed to lie laman hashalom in our Gemara in Yevamos, that implies you're only allowed to lie for peace. Furthermore, if the Gemara says gadol hashalom, that implies peace is great, that you're allowed to lie for the sake of peace, which implies you cannot lie for any other cause. So if that's true, if you're only allowed to lie for shalom, why are you allowed to lie for these three cases in Bava Metzia? So one answer would be, Tosfos in Bava Metzia says that why does the Gemara say that you're allowed to lie for three things? What about Darkei Shalom? So Tosfos says all of these three things are Darkei Shalom. Now it's not so clear what the Shalom is in the Tznius or in the humility. By the way, the Rif disagrees. The Rif says that the reason why the Gemara Metzia did not say Midnei Shalom is because by Shalom it's a mitzvah to lie. And by these three cases it's only Rishus. But here's the question. Question is this, even if you want to say that the heter in the Gemara Bava Metzia is Laman Shalom, but wait a second. The way we learned in the Aruch LaNer, you're not allowed to lie overtly, Laman Shalom. You can only say a half a truth. And yeah, in this Gemara Bava Metzia, it seems you're allowed to lie straight out. Someone says, do you know Yevamos? You're allowed to say no, even if you happen to know it. What do you mean? I thought you're only allowed to say half a truth. Somebody said, did you sleep in this bed? You say no. Well, I meant I didn't really sleep because I woke up 5 times. I mean, the Gemara says you're allowed to lie. And according to the Aruch LaNer, now according to the Biurim Iyunim, who said you're allowed to lie straight out to avoid fighting, it's just you can only say a half a truth to add Ava v'Achva, then it's still not so good, because it would not seem that in these three cases where you're lying about a Masechta, it's to avoid fighting. But even according to the way we learned, again, we learned the Sugya in Yevamos based on the Aruch LaNer, the Marsha, that you're not allowed to lie overtly for the sake of peace, only a half a lie. Why in Bava Metzia you're allowed to lie straight out? You hear the question? Everyone hear the question? I don't know. I appreciate everybody putting their name up. Maybe I don't know if any. Yeah, you understand my question? Are you there? No. Yeah. Again, there's a stira between Yevamos and Bava Metzia. In Yevamos, the way we learned the Sugya, you can only lie if it's a half a lie. And yet, in Ksubis, it seems allowed in Bava Metzia, you're allowed to lie straight out. Someone says, do you know the Masechta? You could say no. So how do we reconcile Yevamos, where you can only say a quasi-lie, and Bava Metzia, where you can lie straight out? I want to tell you an amazing answer. There's another Aruch LaNer here on the Sugya in Yevamos. The Aruch LaNer says, L'chayra, the Gemara forgot about another source that you're allowed to lie for the sake of peace. And that is, Avraham came to Sarah. Sarah, why'd you laugh? What did Sarah say? I didn't. Sarah said, I didn't laugh. So what do we see from there? The Aruch LaNer says, we see from there you're allowed to lie for peace. Here Avraham said straight out, why'd you laugh? And Sarah said back, I didn't. So we see that you are allowed to lie for the sake of peace. That's the question of Aruch LaNer. Comes the Aruch LaNer, and the Aruch LaNer answers, that's not a raya. Because our Gemara is trying to say you're allowed to lie and take the initiative and say a lie even when not being confronted. But from Sarah, all you see is that when being confronted and you need to wiggle out of the situation, you could lie for the sake of peace. But from the Shvatim, we learn you're allowed to initiate a lie for the sake of peace. So we cannot learn out from Sarah that you are allowed to lie for the sake of peace, because we need a makar, you're allowed to initiate a lie, not wiggle out in a situation that already was existent. You hear that answer, the Aruch LaNer? In other words, Sarah is not a makar because Sarah was merely wiggling out of a tough situation. So of course you're allowed to lie in that case. Well, according to this Aruch LaNer, l'chayra, we have an answer to the stira between Yevamos and Bava Metzia. Why in Yevamos you're only allowed to say half a lie, and in Bava Metzia you're allowed to say a whole lie? Because the Aruch LaNer just said, we cannot learn out from Sarah that you're allowed to lie for the sake of peace, because Sarah was wiggling out of a situation. Now, when Sarah wiggled out of that situation, l'chayra, she was lying straight out. And we see then that if you're in a tough spot and someone puts you on the spot, you could lie straight out. So maybe that's why in Bava Metzia, if somebody says, did you learn the Masechta? Now you're on the spot. You're allowed to say no. Somebody says, did you sleep in the bed? You're on the spot, you're under the gun. You're allowed to say no. Somebody says, is this hose good? You're allowed to say no. Because when you're being misnatzel, you're allowed to wiggle out of the situation. Furthermore, when you're being misnatzel, you're allowed to say an overt lie, an obvious lie, a clear lie. So in Bava Metzia, when you're being put on the spot, you could lie straight out. Nobody would ever say, you could go around saying, I don't know this Masechta, or this host is not gracious, or I didn't sleep on the bed, only when somebody asks you, and you're being misnatzel. Then you could say a complete lie. That's how, l'chayra, we would answer the stira between Bava Metzia and Yevamos. In Bava Metzia, you're being misnatzel. In Yevamos, you're taking the initiative. Now, just to explain, what would the difference be between being under pressure or taking the initiative? Why would it be more lenient to be able to lie when you're under the gun? I believe as follows. The Isur of Sheker is different than other Isurim. It doesn't say not to do it, it says stay away from it. So therefore, you definitely can't take the initiative because you're not staying away from it, you're running after it. But if Sheker came running after you, where someone put you on the spot and now you're between a rock and a hard place, then maybe it's more lenient.
I think also that when you're put on the spot, it's harder to think of something which might be like a white lie. So if you're coming up with something on your own, it's easier to come up with something which is maybe a little bit of the truth, not completely the truth. But if somebody just asks you straight up, you don't have enough time to think about a way that it can actually still be true.
So that, okay, I hear what you're saying. But then let's say somebody asks you in a text, so you have a few minutes to think about it. So then it would be different, right? Then it would come out. It depends on the situation. In other words, we're giving a blanket difference between initiation and being misnatzel. Okay, let me tell you another interesting thing. There's a Sefer Titein Emes Liyaakov who brings two psakim of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach paskin that let's say you're walking down the street and a guy pulls up and he says, you need a ride? and you're going to the right. And he says, I need a ride, but are you going in my direction? Now you're not, but you want to do a chesed. But you know he's not going to let you take he's not going to let you take him unless you say you're going in that direction. Are you allowed to lie and say, yeah, I'm going in that direction? Or, let's say somebody says, did you hear what the Meshech Chachma says on this pasuk? And you know it. But you want to make the guy feel good and say, no, I don't know. You're allowed to lie. So the Sefer Biurim V'Iyunim asks, according to him, that you're only allowed to lie overtly to avoid machlokes, but not to be moisef ava v'yachva. Why are you allowed to lie? But we could ask the same question on ourselves, because the way we've set up the Sugya, we have 3 Gemaras. We have Yevamos, we have Ksubis, we have Bava Metzia. From Yevamos, we said you can only say a white lie. And the reason is because that's all the Torah allows you to do. And to Chasan and Kala, you can only say a white lie. Kala na v'chasuda, be'enei ha'chasan, be'ma'aseh. Why in Bava Metzia could you lie straight out? The way we set it up is, you're under the gun. Somebody asked you. So why is the psak, like why does Rav Shlomo Zalman paskin, that you're allowed to say a straight up lie? So it seems like Rav Shlomo Zalman would set up the 3 Gemaras as follows. The Gemara in Yevamos, we said, has 2 ways to learn. You can learn like the Das Kenim, that Sarah, in fact, said she's also too old, and God left out. She said, I'm too old, and Avram's too old, and God just left out that she said Avram's too old. Or you could learn Hashem lied straight out. Sarah never said she's too old. She said, I was too old, but now I'm young again, so for me it's not a problem. The problem's with him. So according to that, you're allowed to lie straight out for the sake of peace. And then according to that, in Bava Metzia, it's very good. You're allowed to lie straight out for the sake of peace. So why in Ksubis are you not allowed to lie for the sake of peace straight out? Why do the Achronim say, Kale noah v'chasuda is only permitted because you could interpret it as noah b'maaseha and noah be'enei hachasan. So I want to say the following chidush. I think this is MS. More correctly, it's MS. You ready for this? Tosfos in Ksubis has the following question. Beis Hillel says you're allowed to lie and praise the Kala. Why does Beis Shammai say you're not allowed to lie and praise the Kala? Would Beis Shammai say you're not allowed to lie Laman HaShalom? Would Beis Shammai argue on the Gemara in Yevamos? Would Beis Shammai argue on the Gemara in Bava Metzia that there are 3 things that rabbis, chachamim, are allowed to lie about? I mean, we know there's a principle in Shas, Mutar l'shanos Laman HaShalom. Why does Beis Shammai say you're not allowed to say Kala noah v'chasuda? You have to say Kala mechu eres unevala. Right? At the chasna of Beis Shammai, they would say Kala mechu eres, Kala mechu eres. How do you say ugly in Hebrew? Minuvel, right? According to Beis Shammai, that would have been some Simchas Chasan V'Kala. My goodness. But according to Beis Shammai, you're not allowed to say Kala noah v'chasuda. Why not? Aren't you allowed to lie for the sake of peace? Listen to Tosfos. Tosfos says, Avada, you're allowed to lie for the sake of peace. And if somebody asks you, do you know a Masechta? You're allowed to say no. And to avoid fight, you could lie. But now the shaila is, the Chachamim are looking to be Mesakein, an official nusach, to say at every chasana. A part of it's like a matbeya, shatavu by Chachamim. The rabbis would never formulate a nusach that's sheker. That's the shita Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai agrees to Yevamos, Mutar l'shanos Laman HaShalom. Beis Shammai agrees to Bava Metzia, 3 things the Chachamim could lie about. But Beis Shammai would say the Rabbanan would never be masakin a lashon that is a sheker. So I would say as follows. Beis Hillel also agrees to that, but to an extent. Really, in general, maybe Beis Hillel holds you're allowed to lie straight out for the sake of peace. But the Chachamim would never enact by every chasana to say a straight out lie, and therefore they only enact it to say like a white lie, that can be interpreted no'a b'maseha or no'a b'inei achasan. Or I thought of another one possibility, and that is the opposite of the Aruch LaNer. The Aruch LaNer says that when a person is being confronted, there's more of a heter to say something which is sheker. So we could say on the flip side, the more one is initiating in a situation where there's no necessity to say anything, that is much more severe. Namely, in Bav Metzia, again, you're just wiggling out of the pressure you're under. In Yevamos, there's a difficult situation you're in. The brothers are worried about Yosef's animosity. Shmuel is worried about Shaul killing him. So under those circumstances, you could lie straight out. But when you go to a chasana, if the kala is ugly, no, you don't have to say anything. Who asked you to say anything? Did anybody solicit your opinion as to how the kala looks? So say, it's I don't know, you're, Baruch Hashem, you're so lucky to get married, such a wonderful mishpacha, what a wonderful Nobody asked you to comment on how the kala looks. So that's the opposite of wiggling out of a tough situation. Don't comment. Nobody asked you. Oh, you're going out of your way to initiate a comment? You better make sure, according to Beis Shammai, you can't say anything which is sheker, and according to Beis Hillel, you cannot say overt sheker. Okay, my rabbi said these are some of the svaras here in the Sugya, in Yevamos, Moto Shanas Man HaShalom, based on two pieces in the Aruch LaNer, and how to reconcile it with the Gemara in Ksubis and the Gemara in Bav Metzia. Okay, wishing everyone an amazing day, and Be'ezus Hashem, tomorrow night we begin the new Perek Almana L'Kohen Gadol, and you're welcome to please join us tomorrow night, 9:15. Wishing everyone bracha v'atzlacha. Have a great day. Shkayach.